Hi, how are you tonight? Thank you very much for joining me. As you can see by my background, I'm back in New York State, back home, and it was a very nice trip to Florida. 3 months. It was just about enough. I don't think I could ever do the whole 6-month snowbird thing. I really enjoy the fall and the spring here, and I have a pool in the backyard, so I do enjoy the summer as well. And as crazy as this sounds, because I do go to Florida for 3 months a year, I don't really love hot weather. But that wasn't a problem this winter because it really wasn't terribly hot, which was okay by me. Not so much by the Floridians who were walking around like seriously wearing hats and scarves and parkas. Some of them, not all. So anyway, thank you very much for joining me tonight. And I'm just kind of getting organized here. I always forget that even though I quite often move my tripod like a little bit over this way or over that way, I leave the settings alone. So I'm just sort of picking it up and moving it. But when I go down to Florida, I collapse the whole thing and I fold it all up. And then when I got there, and this has happened 3 years in a row, so you think I'd catch on, right? I was like, now how did I do that again? How do I get that arm to come out? How do I get that to stay level? So it took me a while, and then when I was in Florida, I just left it alone and moved it from room to room as needed, but didn't change the settings. I thought to myself yesterday that I should probably get the tripod set up here, but I thought I can do that in a minute. Well, not really, not when I can't remember how I do part of it. I need to take notes the next time. So we are continuing with our class on techniques. So this will be technique background class, or background technique class number 4. So we're still going to make cards just like we always do, but along with those cards you're going to learn a technique. So one of the techniques for tonight is going to look a little similar to something from last week. I'll put the camera down. I think it'll be easier if I can show you some of the things that I'm doing. And then we'll get to that. And I do have some stuff tonight to talk to you about that. Some of it may sound like it's stuff for demonstrators, but it honestly affects customers as well. So I'm just going to fill you in on some things, and I'll do that at the end, and you can stay and listen. You can catch it on the replay. You can ignore it completely. It's entirely up to you. It's just information that I would like to provide you with that I think some people would like to have. Okay, so hang on just 1 second, because I remembered I have to make a little change here when I do this, and I'll put the camera down. And yep, we're looking at that spot on the ceiling again. I'm actually getting closer and closer to getting that taken care of. Are we backwards? We're forwards? We're okay? I'm still seeing this, nope, there we go, okay. Oh, and you see my lovely mess there, and it really is a mess today. There's no doubt about it. I'm also having a hard time getting things to move here, and I don't know why. Hang on, please. So we're going to move that. And then we're going to move this slowly. Hang on. Once I get this set, I think the tripod is standing in a slightly different place than where I had it before I left for Florida. It's also possible that my desk is just a little bit messier because I kind of tossed things around while I was trying to pack the things that I needed to have with me. Okay, so it is April. I can hardly believe it. I really can just hardly believe it, but it is April, and we have a new catalog coming live to us in just about a month. So the host code for April is right here, and thank you very much to those of you who placed orders while I was in Florida. A couple of those orders came in like just as I was packing everything up and getting ready to leave, and then getting home was a bit of a chore. I had some car trouble, and then I had some trouble when I got home as well. So thank you notes will be in the mail. Just please be patient with me if they're a little bit late. So use this host code if you're placing an order in the month of April. And this is my web address where you can get things from my store. This is my email address. And this is the name of the group that you're in, 11 Lakes Stamper Creatives. And sometimes people pop in and then they don't remember what the name is. So that's why I'm telling you. I did post my April Daily Creative Prompts calendar yesterday. Take a look at that. There are also some important dates to remember on there, and I'll explain a little bit to you about Paper Pumpkin because I have an important announcement about that. For anyone who's thinking of subscribing or extending their subscription, this would be really important to know. So I hope I remember to talk about that because I've got 1,000 things to talk about. This is the new catalog, which you know how it goes. I still cannot show you the inside of the new catalog. I know that's a little frustrating, but that's the way it goes. Just kind of a quick whatever for people who are saying, gee, the catalog is always so bright and sunny and has beautiful colors, and this one looks like a bunch of people having a picnic and it looks pretty gloomy. So, yeah, I get that. So they're not just having a picnic, they have food there, but they're crafting. So she's holding a stamp set, and here's the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, and these two are holding something else, and this one is holding some blends. So they're not just having a picnic, they're having an outdoor get-together among friends to, good grief, to enjoy crafting in the outdoors, which is not necessarily easy to do, just to be perfectly honest with you. If it gets windy or if it starts raining, like it's been doing for days now, paper and wet and paper and wind just truly don't mix very well. However, here's what I'm going to tell you. The point of this catalog and the point of a lot of what Stampin' Up! Is leaning towards now is to remember how important it is for people to gather together. Obviously, we want you to gather together and do crafts because that's our thing. But you can gather together and do just about anything. But it seems like when the pandemic hit and we all went through that lockdown period, that a lot of us kind of forgot after that how to gather together. Some of us have even commented that we don't feel like we have the same social skills that we had before, especially for those of us, I say us, it's not me because I retired, but especially for those of you who were able to continue working at home after the pandemic. They're saying, you know, we don't have coworkers to talk to. Maybe they don't have children at home anymore. Or maybe that's all they have to talk to is children, which is okay, but, you know, it's not ideal as your only outlet for communication. Excuse me. So anyway, we're focusing a lot on getting together. And while we used to do lots of what we called home parties back in the day, which were very much like a Tupperware party, you know, you come and you have some good stuff to eat, maybe you have some wine, you look at a catalog, you see some demonstrations, and maybe you buy some Tupperware. So our home parties, which we tend to call now things like home workshops or even girls' night out, are a little bit different from that in that same deal. You come to someone's house. It could be my house, or it could be someone who's offered to host it at their house, or it could be a church basement, you know, whatever you've got that you'd like to use. Get together and we make some things, and you get to keep those things that you make, and that's totally free. It doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't cost the host anything. Usually the host and I will chip in to buy food for snacks or a bottle of wine or whatever. And then, yes, you will look at the catalog, and yes, if you really enjoyed what you did there in terms of making something, stamping and whatnot, then maybe you will buy something. But we're hoping that you'll get together and do some of these things together, and that's kind of what it's all about. So that's what that's about. I'm sorry that I can't show you the inside, but I will be able to show it to you soon enough, and I can show you products from that, and I will be getting some soon. All right, the rest I will wait until after to talk about. I won't talk about it right now. We'll kind of get going. So just to refresh your memory, these were the two cards, whoops, upside down. These were the two cards that we made last week. One was using a watercolor wash technique, and I used my watercolor brush for that. I used the thick one, and I think I ended up spritzing it with some water as well because the watercolor brush was not being my friend that night, and it wasn't putting out as much water as I needed. So that's a watercolor wash, and it was kind of an ombre thing. We used Lost Lagoon, and it went from a darker down to a lighter, and then I stamped some things on that were pretty dark and covered them with a circle of vellum. Vellum is retiring, by the way, so if you like vellum, get it while it's hot. This card also used vellum, but this time it used an alcohol technique where we use our blend markers, which are an alcohol-based marker, and actual alcohol, and we scribble a little color, we sprayed it on, and this, I think this is just beautiful. This is one of my favorite techniques. So just another way to make a background. Okay, so tonight what we're going to do is, again, a little bit of the watercolor wash. And I'm looking to see where I put my watercolor paper. And then we're going to talk about salt. So this is what you will find in my pantry if you go looking for salt. So I have sea salt that I put in my grinder that goes on the table or by the stove, and I use that a little bit on my food. I use it for some cooking and so on. Sorry, this crookedness is getting to me. And then I have just plain old-fashioned iodized salt. I have no idea where I bought this because usually I buy either Wegmans brand or Morton. And I'm thinking I might have gotten it someplace like Aldi, or I honestly don't know, but it doesn't matter. It's salt. It works. And then the other salt that I keep in my kitchen all the time is kosher salt because it's really good for cooking with. It's more coarse. It has a slightly different texture. And so I was trying to remember back when I learned this technique when I was taking an actual watercolor painting class, which salt we used or if we tried them all and which ones we found to be a little bit better than the others. So I figured I'd clean out my pantry, which needed to happen anyway, and I would bring them all. So, like I said, still looking for my watercolor paper. Oh, I see it. The fan blew it off where I had it. Okay, hang on just a second. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, so watercolor paper, whether you're using watercolor paints or whether you're using our inks with water, watercolor paper just works better because cardstock is not really meant to hold up to water. So it will start to get kind of pilly, and that's not a good look for it. I grabbed some ink pads. Please understand that I am not totally unpacked yet. I've just been kind of a hot mess since I got home. I walked in the door Friday evening, and my normal routine is to turn on the water, turn up the heat, and then go to the store and get some groceries because the refrigerator is empty. And I turned on the water, came upstairs to do a couple of other things before I headed out to the store, and I heard this noise that didn't sound like anything good. And so I ran down to the basement and found that my hot water heater had blown. And there was water pouring out at the rate of I don't know how many gallons a minute. Luckily, I moved fast and I got it turned off at the main, and it was just a very minor flood. You know, it was moppable as opposed to a major flood, which it would have been if I had walked out the door and left it. So I've been doing all kinds of things in the basement with moving things and rearranging things and whatnot. And you don't need to hear all that, but just so that you understand that I really didn't pay any attention to unpacking. And then today I had to go get my sweet little cat from my daughter's house where he's been staying for the last 3 months. All right, so we're going to do a very similar thing to what we did last week. I could use the re-inkers, but they're not unpacked yet. So I unpacked a few colors, not even knowing if these were the colors I really wanted to use. This is Berry Burst, and I know I used that last week, but I really do love that color, and it definitely makes me think of spring. So just to make things go a little bit faster than last week, where it was kind of like watching paint dry, watching me struggle with my water painter, which, by the way, I've never had a problem with before. I honestly haven't. And I'm beginning to wonder if it's me, because I do seem to be having a minor problem with hand strength. And so it's possible that all of my squeezing of this brush just didn't do the trick. But then when it did start working, it was working great. So I'm just not sure. And maybe I just need to take it out and give it a good cleaning. So I'm going to spray the paper with water. These are from our Stampin' Misters, and these are not retiring, but the price is increasing, just to kind of keep that in mind. The paper will curl when you get it wet, and that's perfectly normal, and it's okay. It will flatten out for the most part when it's dry. All right, and so I really do want, for this particular technique, I want a lot of water, though. So I think I'm going to spritz again. Just really, really, really make sure I have enough, because I do want it to be very wet, or else I'm pretty sure my recollection is that this technique doesn't work so well when it's very, very wet. So I'm just going to put a background on you so you can see how wet that is, right? Just by how it's dripping and running and whatever else, and that is just fine because that's exactly what I'm looking for. I want to get lots of color on here. So I hope everyone had a good Easter, Mine was very nice. We went out to dinner, which is something I don't think we've ever done before. But given that I was just getting home from Florida and everything else, it seemed like a good idea. And then, of course, not having any water between Friday and Monday would have made cooking an Easter meal difficult. So we went to the Ontario Country Club, for those of you who live local, and had a very nice brunch there. Very nice. So that was good. All right, so I just really want to make sure that this is kind of saturated, you know, like almost goopy wet. I'm not sure that that's necessary. And then what happens is you take the salt, and I'm going to go for the kosher to begin with, or maybe just at all. I'm just putting a little bit in my hand, and then I'm going to sprinkle it onto the paper. Boy, this is really delayed today. I haven't even seen my hand yet. Okay, I'm going to sprinkle it onto the paper. And I'm already feeling like it could have been wetter. But what happens is that when the salt hits the paper, I'm making such a mess and truly, truly hoping that somewhere nearby I have at least a napkin or a paper towel. So when the salt hits the wetness, it kind of disperses a little bit. And I think that would have done more if this was even wetter than it is. So again, do as I say, not as I do. But I think it's okay, and I could spray it a little bit more, but I'm not sure, well, I'm not sure exactly what that's going to do, if anything or nothing, but you know what, there's never any harm in trying, so what the hey. We'll spray it a little bit more. As long as I'm making everything wet and goopy, I might as well go for it, right? And so what happens is the salt sort of starts to dissolve a little bit. Now typically you would set this aside and give it time to dry, but I'm going to use my heat tool to let it dry. Okay, so then the idea is to brush the salt off. So again, it's not completely dry yet, so I'm just not sure if we're getting exactly the effect that I'm looking for, but you will see a difference in texture and pattern for sure. You just may not see the kind of spreading out that I was talking about, but you'll notice a difference. And maybe with the other type of salt, it would be different, better, worse, I'm not sure. So let me just hold that up and hope that you can see it to some degree. I feel like I'm seeing it. All right, so again, I've got a delay. Oh, I hate the lighting in here. The lighting was actually better in Florida. I have to figure out how I can kind of duplicate that. So it's just not as pretty what you're seeing. Although sometimes when I look at my screen, people tell me, no, it looks okay, and it's just my screen. But you can see how it kind of spread out. They're a little, I'm trying to think of what it reminds me of. It almost reminds me of like when you look at cells under a microscope, that type of look. And it's very pretty. And again, it's probably prettier when you take the time to let it dry naturally instead of using the heat gun. My other intention was to go pick up my cat from my daughter's house probably around 1 o'clock today, and then get back here no later than 4 so that I could make some sample cards. On the way there was an accident, and I hate to complain because it looked like a very bad accident. The entire front end of a car was just basically missing. There were 2 ambulances, 2 fire trucks, state police troopers, and I don't think it went well for whoever was in that car. So like I said, not complaining, but it took me, like well over an hour to get to her house, and it's like a 40-minute drive most of the time. And then on the way home, same thing in the other direction, only I never did find out what the accident was, because when I saw all the brake lights going on up ahead and realized we weren't moving, I actually went ahead and got off a different exit, but then I had to come home kind of a back road roundabout way, so it took me longer to get home. Yeah, it's just been one of those couple of days, I guess. So I did not get to make my samples so that they would be perfect for you, although nothing's really perfect, and I don't know that any of the things I make are ever perfect, or that I necessarily want them to be. They're very often quite pretty, but I don't know that they're perfect. So that is just another way of creating a background, and I will use that, and then probably tomorrow or sometime when I have a moment or two, I'm trying to get all this salt off the table, and then reminding myself like not to lick my fingers because it's salt, but it's salt. I don't think our ink is toxic, to be quite honest, because I have licked my fingers before to get it off, and I'm still here, so I don't know that I would go lapping it up, but I don't think it's overly toxic. Okay, so that is that technique. The other technique is called emboss resist, and that is a little bit different. We do not need to use watercolor paper for that. We can just use cardstock. And let's see, I have a scrap. Well, it's not actually a scrap, it's really half a sheet of cardstock, but we will use that. And I'm just going to cut the half in half. So it's, right now it's 8.5 by, I want to say 8.5 by 5.5. So I'm going to cut it at 4 1/4. So it will be 1/4 of a sheet of 8.5 by 11 paper. And what we're going to need to do this is I'm going to need my embossing buddy right here. And you will get one of these if you purchase that kit, the embossing kit. That's, I think it's in the catalog, but a lot of things are being moved to online specials, and that's another thing I guess I should mention while I'm doing this. So I need my embossing buddy, and I need my Stampin' Up! Clear embossing powder. The purpose of the embossing buddy is to first of all just clean it off. Like right before I came on air, I put hand lotion on, and that definitely has some oils in it. So it helps to absorb those oils so that the embossing powder, I keep wanting to call it paste, the embossing powder won't stick anywhere that you don't want it to stick. Okay, and then we take, well, before we do that, we need the Versamark ink pad, which is right here as well. I hope it doesn't need re-inking because I don't know where the re-inkers are yet. And I pulled out a couple of different stamps. I'm honestly not sure which ones I want to use, or if I even picked a good choice, to be honest with you. Let's see. I'm going to use this one because it's new, but I'm honestly not 100% sure it's the right choice for this technique. But, oh yeah, I haven't even mounted these yet or done anything with them, so we're just going to take the real big one out of here. This is the Stippled Roses set, and it's carrying over to the 2024-2025 annual catalog. A lot of things that are carrying over, though, just so that you know when you do get your catalog, if you're a customer and you've made a recent purchase, you got a catalog for free from me, and people are saying, well, I couldn't find it in the catalog. Some of those people may have gotten theirs already. If you can't find something that I told you was carrying over in the new catalog, it's not because I was wrong, although I'm more than capable of being wrong. It's actually because some things actually carried over. Instead of into the new catalog, they carried over as a as an online special. So you'll have to look under online exclusive. That's what it's called. I knew that the word special wasn't right. So this is just really, really beautiful. It's I think it's supposed to be pen and ink, and I think I see, well, I think I see stippling there, but that just might be why they called it Stipple Roses. Huh, what do you think? Okay, see, sometimes I figure this stuff all out of myself without even reading the labels. So anyway, it's very, very pretty. Looks like it was done in pen and ink. I did that many, many moons ago in an art class. I really enjoyed it, but I wasn't especially good at it. You really really have to have a steady hand and good eyes, good eye-hand coordination, and just coordination in general, which is not always my strong suit. Hello, Cheryl. How are you tonight? All right, so I'm going to really ink this up as best as I can because, like I said, I'm not even 100% sure that my ink pad doesn't need some re-inking. So Versamark ink is basically an invisible ink. It's what's called a watermark ink, which means you could use it to make a watermark on something, let's say like a piece of artwork or something where you just wanted to have something that said your name or had your symbol on it, but you didn't want to sign it or get some great big thing on there. I'm just going to stick it smack in the middle. I honestly haven't decided what I want to do with this. And like I said, I'm just not at all convinced. Oh, that came out good. You won't be able to see that, I know, but I promise it really did come out pretty well. So we don't see it. It's pretty much invisible except, you know, under certain light. I can see it, but the lighting here is such that you probably can't. And then I'm just going to take this. I'm going to try not to touch where any of that is. And since it is hard even for me to see, I'm just going to try to get this everywhere. And I don't worry about this because what I don't use, I can just dump back in. And I'm just going to keep spreading it on there. Oh, you know, I have the ceiling fan on. And I'm watching these little particles just flying across my table. When you get this stuff, to be honest, when you get this stuff on your table or wherever, you'll have it for a while. It'll be the gift that keeps on giving. You will keep finding it. Okay, oh, I do know the one other thing that I really did forget to get, though, which is kind of important for what we're doing tonight. I might have to try the sponge daubers instead because I don't have a clue where my blending brushes are. Okay, so yeah, there's just embossing powder. You can see it now. I'm kind of rallying, you know, wrangling it, but it flew. Oh yeah, it's all over. It flew all the way over there. I could see that. Note to self: do not have a fan on in the room when you're doing embossing. Okay. Once again, you get to learn from my mistakes. Isn't that nice? All right, so now we're going to take the heat gun to it, and because this isn't a color, this isn't going to be very dramatic either. I'll try to hold it up so that you can see when the magic happens. And what I mean by that is when it starts to get hard and it will get shiny. And, oh, you can see it. Okay. If you have tweezers, which I have somewhere, I suggest using them because it really does kind of burn your fingers, and that's not fun. And as soon as you see that everything has sort of turned, you really do want to stop, because if you go too far, you can actually melt your embossing powder, and that's no fun. So now we've got this beautiful rose on here. I'm just double checking it. I don't see any spots that aren't embossed. At least I don't think so. Well, now I'm not so sure. Hang on. Hold, please. Okay, so while I was testing that to see if it was done, I actually might have undone a tiny bit of it, but it's still there and it's still good, and I think that I'm going to have to use my sponge daubers because I have no idea where my blending brushes are. I really don't. I brought up a couple of different bins of things and I'm not seeing them in any of the bins, so rather than wasting your time, we'll use the sponge daubers. I didn't bring those with me to Florida, and then I wished I had, because a few techniques or things came up where I wanted to have them and I didn't. But then I probably wouldn't know where they were either, so it's just as well. So let's see, do I want to use that darker color? What about the Moody Mauve? That might be nice. And then, oh, I have Granny Apple Green, which is a little darker than I want it to go. Maybe the Wild Wheat. I don't know. We'll see. And whether we end up liking the color or not, I'm hoping that we'll at least be happy with the outcome of the technique. So let's see. Again, it's really hard to see. I'm wondering if I should try to do the leaves first. Or maybe, I honestly don't know. I have a couple of ideas. I think I'm just going to play a little bit. Let's see with the Moody Mauve. I'm pretty sure, let's see. This one looks like it might, oh, that's Bubble Bath. I guess I don't want to use that one. All right, I'm going to take a new one because I don't think I have a Moody Mauve one. All right, now you do remember, let's see, I'm going to need some scrap paper, and I'm just going to use the back of the thing we did a few minutes ago because we don't want that. Yeah, that's very dark, isn't it? I don't know how I feel about that. That really is very, very dark. What else did I get out here? Nothing like that. All right, so I think I'm going to really rub the color off a lot and then start going kind of in circles. Oh yeah, I don't want to do any more than that. Oh yeah, okay, so the magic is happening. So can you see that? What's happening is that every place where the embossing powder turned hard, the ink is not sticking to it. And so you're getting the impression of the rose. So let's see if I can continue and do some more. And I really want to get that color out. That Moody Mauve is one really dark color, and I don't want anything quite that dark. So I really have to keep tipping this and looking at it to kind of see where the rose begins and ends and where the leaves begin and end. And actually, maybe the sponge daubers were actually a better choice because they give you a little more control, and they're smaller than even the smaller blending brushes. So this might not have been a bad choice, even though it wasn't exactly on purpose. Okay. Yeah, I do like this color, but for what I'm doing, that would have just been way too dark, I think. Okay, so now here's another rose. You know what I'm going to look at? I'm going to look at, this would be a good idea, if you pull this out and set this where you can see it. And now you're kind of seeing, so one rose, I think actually this is upside down from the image here, so I'm going to turn it around. Oh. Okay, and it looks to me like this rose is bigger than I made it, so I can probably come out a little bit more. And if I get some of the leaves, I don't have a big problem with that. Yeah, see, it was bigger, so now I made that a little bit bigger. This one maybe just a tiny bit bigger, but I can see that I'm onto the leaves. And then this one here is really just a, just almost a, right, this one's like a semi-open bud, and then someplace, oh, right above it, I see a bud that isn't open yet. So it really helped to look at the image on the stamp set. All right, so again, at this point, you could be looking at it and just saying, yeah, okay, what is that? But we're going to get there, all right? We're going to get there. So I'm going to put that one back. I'm going to close up the Moody Mauve, and then I'm going to get the Wild Wheat. Although I did get, I got Lost Lagoon. Let me just take a look at the Wild Wheat and kind of refresh my memory. It's a different color. A lot of people didn't like it, but it started to grow on me. But what I will say about it is that in some light or mixed with some colors, it looks very gold. There's like a big blob of it, but it also can look green. It's very, it's like a chameleon. So I'm going to use it. I'm going to go ahead and use it. So I'm going to very lightly go over those leaves where I can see them and where I see, guess what? That is not a leaf. That is a rosebud because I just caught sight of it up there, and there's actually another one next to it too. So let's just see what I can do to make that come out, and I think it's okay because it'll just look like the leaves are on the bottom of it. Okay, yep, we saved that one. Now there's going to be a kind of a glow behind it. I'm not sure what else to call it. And I'm perfectly okay with that too, because I just don't see how you could stay in the lines with this technique perfectly. All right, so I've got a couple more leaves over here and over here. I'm just going to kind of keep working my way around, maybe not finishing, but just sort of seeing. And I haven't re-inked this yet, and I think that's just fine that I didn't, because I don't want it to be too dark. So I think now you're kind of understanding what I'm talking about. The resist technique is that wherever the Versamark is, and it's hardened, it's like a hard plastic now, and so the ink is not going to stick to it. I'm going to put a little on the bottom there. So it's a different look. It's maybe, I don't know if abstract is the right word, but it is kind of a different look. I see I have embossing powder on here now, which tells me that there was something on there that wasn't fully heated. Again, it looked it to me, but it wasn't, because the powder came off on my ink pad, which is not a great thing to happen. I'm just going to try to fill in some of the spots with the Moody Mauve. I keep wanting to call it Misty Mauve. Just to fill it in a little bit. Alright, so again, that might not be your thing. I think it's really very pretty. And then I'm not sure, like, other possible ideas for what you could do with it would be to, I'm thinking like a little bit of splattering on there. Apparently I'm just into making a mess tonight is what it comes down to. A little bit of splattering maybe, just to give that background a little something. But I wouldn't want it to be anything too terribly dark. And I'm looking for my Stampin' Blends. Not Stampin' Blends, Stampin' Write markers. And I'm wondering about a different color, like maybe the, what is this one? So I think 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, I did some demonstration with coloring right on stamps using the Stampin' Write markers. I'll be honest with you, in the 5 years that I've been a demonstrator and in the 20 some odd years that I was a customer, I never really got into these markers. I wasn't exactly sure what they were all about. I wasn't sure if I was going to like them. Okay, there's obviously a technique to this that I am just not getting, because I am not getting splatter. And I don't know why. Oh, there's some. Okay. And I've also watched demonstrators do this and thought, oh no, you're ruining your markers. Oops, and I'm making marks where I don't want them. So I'm not sure I would do this a whole lot. I think I'd rather do the splatter with some wet re-inker and a brush. So this is not something that Stampin' Up! Sells, but it's called a fan brush, and you can get it in any art supply store, probably even at Michael's. I don't know about Joann's. They're getting away from carrying art supplies. But basically you just get it wet, you dip it in something wet, and then you kind of do this sort of thing, and it splatters, and it's really kind of a nice technique. I don't think they're too expensive, and I'm sure there are expensive ones and cheap ones. I would highly recommend going for cheap, because it's not something you would use that often. So, okay, I got a little bit of splatter on there, and this was the lemon lime twist, so it's not like an especially dark color, but I didn't want to mess around with anything too dark and come up with something scary. So then this would be ready to go onto a card base at this point and to get a sentiment on it. So let's cut this down to 4. Alright, so when I do this, I tend to want to take a little bit from each end, so I don't just automatically go to 4. Because maybe there's a piece of one end that I want to take off, or I want this to be more central or more even. So I'll take a little bit off from each side to kind of even it up. I don't know how that important that really is. It's just something I do. And then we need 5 1/4. So that does seem pretty centered, but I've got this thing here where I actually hit the marker on the paper, so I'd like to get rid of some of that anyway. Maybe not all of it, but some. So I was a little too close to the paper when I did that. That's why that happened. Okay, so 4 by 5 1/4. And I really do think that's very, very pretty. And I'm thinking that right over here, yes, I do have one of these bags that I tend to bring to my classes that just have extra sentiment type strips in them, either punched out or cut out from different dies or whatever. I like this one a lot, and I can't remember which die set it's from at the moment, but that would be a nice one. And then I'm thinking about what the sentiments are. So definitely the stippled rose and the leaves and the single rose are the star of the show here. But we have a Happy Mother's Day, which we won't do right now. Plus, it won't fit on here, but that'll be here before we know it, won't it? Congratulations and best birthday wishes. I kind of like the congratulations. I like the font on that a lot. So let's see if I can find it. Oh, and you know what? It's bigger in real life than it was on the cover. So let me see if that's actually going to fit well. It may not. Okay, so these stamps will stick without the label. The problem with not having the label is that you don't know if you're stamping something right side up or upside down, and you're not even 100% sure that you've got the right stamp or that it's going on straight. So I really do recommend using the label. This block is retiring. The little A blocks, the little tiny like 1-inch cubes that I use quite a bit, I use them a lot in my classes. I think I already have 4 of them. I just bought 2 more and they're sold out. And then the other block that is sold out, let me see if I can get them for you. So this is the A block. That is sold out. This one is, excuse me, this one is retiring, but it wasn't sold out as of like noon today. Well, oh, here it is. So this one is the G block, and this is good for small sentiments, and I use that a lot, and I think I only have 1 or 2 of these, so I ordered 2 more of these, I think, and 2 more of these. So if these are blocks that you like to use a lot, again, I would suggest getting online sooner than later. I don't believe that they're going to be discounted at all. So items that are discounted, oh, it's just going to fit perfectly, okay. And I don't want black. I think that'd be too much of a stark contrast for that. So I'm going to use, no, not that, where is it? There we go. I'm going to use the basic gray, which I know I keep saying it is one of my favorite stamps for sentiments, or say favorite colors for sentiments is what I'm trying to say. Hey Amy, never apologize for being late. I think it was like 2 or 3 minutes late myself, and it's a miracle that I wasn't later than that. Okay. I don't know why, but I hold my breath when I'm stamping. Maybe just because I'm waiting to see if it was terribly crooked or not terribly crooked. And it is a little bit crooked, but not terribly crooked. So I'm going to put that on there. This would even make like a nice wedding card. I still want a few more splatters on there, but I'm going to have to play with that later because I don't want to make a mess. Oh my gosh, everything that is next to me that I'm touching has embossing powder on it. I made a mess, no doubt about it. All right, now I'm looking for dimensionals. I brought all this stuff, no, not all, but I brought a lot of stuff up from downstairs. And I know dimensionals were amongst them. Oh, I see them. Okay. I'm stretching and twisting and practically hanging upside down to reach some of these things. If I can't walk tomorrow, that'll probably be why. And then I grabbed a few colors of card bases, and I'm not sure at this point if I'm going to like any of those either. Of course I don't have, oh wait a minute, oh no, that's brown. I will say I don't think I have a Moody Mauve here. That would be too easy if I had one just sitting here from before. I'm quite sure that I didn't grab Moody Mauve paper, because why would I, even though I grabbed Moody Mauve ink. I'm hoping that by next week I'll have my act together and have all this stuff unpacked. But if the way things, I have something going on like every day, so that every time I think I'm going to do something. Today, my daughter and I tried to go visit a friend of hers who had a baby, and everything turned out okay, but it was a little touch and go for a while there. Her blood pressure got high, and then the baby had high blood sugar and whatever. So we wanted to go visit, but then they ended up sending them home. You know, you gotta love the hospitals, right? There's a few things wrong, but go home anyway. I just don't understand that. And she lives in Syracuse, so there was no way we could make it there today. Oh dear. All right, so what what color do I have here that would go with Moody Moth? Maybe I just need to go with a green of some kind. Well, actually, I think that's Mossy Meadow, and I think that looks pretty good. I do. I always tend to think of this as like a Christmassy, wintry color, but you know, green is green, right? And when I think of green, I think of spring, so. Yeah, I love the splatters too, Cheryl. You and I should get together sometime and do some mixed media art, because you could really have fun. Let me tell you, I make one heck of a mess when I do that stuff. But I put down a tarp, and you know, I'm like really prepared, more so than I am with this, because oh my gosh, it's everywhere. I'm gonna have to get out my Swiffer. It is just everywhere. Ugh. All right. No fan when you're embossing. I should get a sign and just put it on the switch to the fan to remind myself that if embossing is on the menu for today, no fan. Anyway, so we were going to do that, and that didn't happen, and then it poured, and then there were the accidents, and then, speaking of accidents, the cat had a little accident in his crate on the way back from her house. He truly does not like being in a car at all. We never had a problem because the vet is like 6 minutes away, and we didn't realize until the first time I brought him to her house, he truly seems to suffer from motion sickness. And I do feel sorry for him. We found some spray that's supposed to help with that, but it doesn't always work. Oh, gosh, it's everywhere. All right, so I'm not going to bother with the inside for right now, but that is really, I like it. It's pretty, and I like that set. I think I'm going to enjoy having that. So that is the embossed resist technique. And then this one, gosh, look what a mess I made of this. I used it for all kinds of stuff. All right, now that it's dry, again, I'm liking it. And for the, excuse me, for the parts that I don't love, I can start to cut some of those off, which is the other nice thing about always leaving yourself or using a bigger piece of paper to start out with when you're doing a technique of some kind, because then you can cut off the parts that just didn't come out the way you would kind of hope they would. And that happens a lot, just so you know, and it's perfectly normal and it's okay. All right, so I'm just going to kind of go a little bit at a time with this. Like, I don't like that dark edge there, so I'm going to want to get that off of there. And if I had used a 4x5 1/4 sheet of paper and the edge was like that, then I'd kind of be stuck with it. I mean, I could make it 3 3/4 by 5 or something like that, but it's just easier to start bigger. You know, yes, you do use a little bit more paper, but I still think it's a good idea. Oh, I think that's a piece of salt there. And then this blotchy thing I'm not thrilled with, so we're going to get rid of that. And I think everything else looks kind of okay to me. Hello, Dawn, how are you? Okay, 4 by 5 1/4. So do I want to keep the darker and stick with the lighter, or the other way around? I kind of like them both. So I think I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take off some of this very light piece here, and maybe I can use that on the inside of the card or someplace. And then I'm going to take off some of the extra dark stuff here. Although I need to have this 5 1/4, and this was 5 by 7. So this is our Fluid 100 watercolor paper. That's what it's called. And I think it was just last week. It seems like it was 100 years ago. Last week I finally showed you the package, because I have this tendency to open up the package and throw away the packaging. So I don't think I've ever remembered not to throw it out until last week, so that you could actually see what the package looked like. And we do sell that. You can get that in my online store as well. All right, so now we have 4 by 5 1/4, and I think that's pretty good. So then the idea here would be, obviously, to either stamp on that or to possibly put some die cuts on that. And I'm just wondering if I have something kicking around on my desk. I could stamp on it, but I'm even thinking of something like this. I've always got these little bags that I take to classes with me with extra doodads in them. So let's see, I love black and pink. Love black and pink. And today my daughter told me she loved gray and pink. Who knew? I didn't even know that. How do you not know that about your child? She got a new couch and it's gray, and she has a throw blanket that's pink with a kind of a crazy pattern, but it's very pretty. So I like that. And then I would just have to find a sentiment. And then I've got all these leaves that, of course, I can't remember for the life of me where they came from, but they're very cute. And whatever it is, it's still current. I know that much. I can probably find it. And then just put a sentiment with some of the leaves on that. That would be kind of nice. So what other sentiments did I grab? So I have thinking of you, every day's a fresh start. So we're looking for something kind of long and narrow. And I know you don't necessarily pick out your sentiments because of the piece of paper that you have. It should be kind of the opposite. But in this case, I'm working ass backwards, as some people would say. Happy birthday. I can't imagine having a better friend. Actually, I like that one. I do like that one. And I can think of a few people that I would send that card to. I'm not even sure if I used that one yet. I've used the stamp set, but I don't think I've used that sentiment. Okay, so this is a photopolymer stamp. And so because of that, I need some kind of a cushion. So it can be our Stampin' Pierce mat. It can be a piece of foam. And this is just like the kids' craft play foam, whatever you call it, that I just cut into pieces. I use these in my classes just because they're easy. It could be a mouse pad. I usually have at least one of those kicking around here. Oh, look at that. That's just a perfect size. Okay, that's too big. Oh, that's a little bit too big. The other reason that I was kind of surprised that Stampin' Up! Did away with some of these, especially these two smaller ones, is that one of the things that every demonstrator I've ever worked with as a customer, and even several videos that were put out by Stampin' Up! Themselves, they all would say, don't use a block that's too big for your stamp, because that's when you get all the gunky ink around the edges, and if you're a rocker, like some people are, then you're making a mess and you're getting ink all over. Whereas if you're using a block that's very close to the size of your stamp, that doesn't happen. So, you know, we were taught that, and now we're getting rid of some of the smaller stamps, or stamp blocks. I do know they did a survey at one time. I see there's a couple of demonstrators on here. Does anybody remember getting that survey? I don't know if they send it to everybody or just some people. And apparently my opinion didn't count for too much, because I said that the A block was my absolute favorite for all those little tiny stamps that we have. And almost every set we have has some tiny stamp in it. I said it was my favorite, and then I said that the G block was excellent for small sentiments, and that this one was great for some of our tall flowers. I mean, those are the ones I spoke the most highly of, the ones that I said I would never want to give up. And they retired them. Obviously, other people voted, and, okay, so you got it, Cheryl. Yeah, so I guess the majority of people didn't agree with me, that's what I'm trying to say. So I can't blame Stampin' Up!, because it was like they were taking a vote, and my whatever, my opinion just wasn't among the, wasn't in the majority. That's what I'm trying to say. Good grief. Okay, so we're just going to put this together here. And again, I have no idea what color cardstock I brought upstairs. There was some logic to it when I did it. But then the doorbell rang, and the person I was talking to in the doorway just doesn't understand about a cat who tries to get out. And I'm trying to, like, keep the door closed so that the cat can't get out and not look as rude as I think I was looking by practically closing the door in his face. And then I was trying to hold the cat at bay with one foot. Okay. Okay. Oh, I did bring up some berry burst paper. Okay. So that's good since this is berry burst. That will work. So let's use this. Every time I pick up the cutter, it's the wrong way and it's upside down. I know I said this last week. Some people use them upside down or sideways. And I don't know, there must just be something about me, but I just can't make that work for me. I have to use it right side up, or at least what I view as being right side up. Alright, so in this case, I'm scoring it at 4 1/4 the whole way across. And then I'm going to cut it at 5 1/2, and that will actually give me 2 card bases. And I just have a little, it's actually like a paper sorter that you might use in an office or whatever, sitting next to me. And so I'll take that other base and put it in with the reds and the pinks so that it's ready for me the next time, and I'll have it. So I always have a few card bases right over here. I think I showed all of that in a craft room organization tips video, which is really funnier than you even know if you could see the rest of this room. But typically when I'm not returning from a trip, I actually do know where everything is, well, almost everything. Alright, so there's still a little bit of salt on that, but it's better than all of that embossing paste, good grief. And so that's an ugly hot mess, and it just doesn't matter, it's not going to show. So it doesn't matter, and I needed a piece of scrap paper, and it was there, so I think this is one of those glues that's almost empty because it's starting to like bubble out. It seems weird that a lot of glue would come out of a glue bottle that's almost empty, but that's what happens. I'm sure there's some scientific explanation for that. If there are any scientists out there, you can explain that to me. Oh, and I see that my card is not folded just so. I always say it's paper, and no matter what, I should be stronger than a piece of paper, so I can make it do what I want it to do. Okay, and then we'll put that on there. Oh, but wait, before we put that down, hang on, I have a corner sticking up, which will bug me no end until I fix it. Alright, so maybe one of the ways that I do this kind of thing is to do it this way first. So instead of putting it down on here, I put it on here. And I can either use some tear and tape, or I could if I knew where it was, or I can just put, let's make sure I've got this right side up, okay. Put just a little bit of glue, like here and here, it doesn't matter if there's too much in the end, it'll just dry if I don't use it. And then I can flip that over, and then I can just kind of make my design. So I can usually start with something in the middle, and then I'll grab one of these kind of next, maybe do like an alternating thing. It doesn't have to be a true pattern, honestly. You can do whatever floats your boat. So the good news is our glue dries pretty quickly, and just because I didn't put a lot of it on there, these things are going to stick without any trouble. Probably should not have said that out loud, but oops, yeah, now I got gluey fingers on the black ink, but our adhesive eraser will take care of that, and I do know where that is. It's right here somewhere. And then maybe another one of these right next to that one. Okay, so now I remember some of these were really big, and I think I cut them in half just so that I could have some smaller ones too. I don't remember if there really were 2 sizes or if I just hacked them all up, because there's 2 big ones. I think I just cut them. Now if the glue is starting to dry, which it is, then that's not going to work quite as well. But I can just put some more down right across it. And a little extra. to hold it in place, and then maybe on the corner one of these smaller ones and just have it sticking out more. And so this is a really good reason, honestly, why it's a good idea to have some extras of all of these kinds of things. Just have them in little sleeves like I have these. These I bring with me to classes just because sometimes we want a variety and it may not be the one that I was planning on, but someone finds a sentiment that works better with that. And then just to be sure that these all stay on well, I'll just put my dimensionals right on top of them. So I'll probably use a few more than I need to. And let's see. Okay, so these are Teflon Fisker scissors that you can get just at Walmart. I have a small pair, and this pair is a little bit bigger. So if you cut off the edge pieces, they're great for a bordery kind of thing like this. And then I can use one of those right there. And then do the corners. And maybe another edge piece here, just to kind of keep the middle from breaking in on itself or bending down. And the take your pick tool works really well for getting these things off when fingernails don't work or fingers aren't working right, which sometimes happens. I'm also going to have to create one of these backgrounds and just try stamping on it, because even though I got all the salt pieces off of there, it does leave a bit of a texture behind, so I'm not sure how stamping on it would work. To be honest, it might be better to use die cuts or just a sentiment like we are in this case. Okay, so again, I won't bother finishing the inside of that. Not sure, but I have all those cut-off pieces that I can use. So these are the two techniques today. So it's watercolor with salt and emboss resist, and I think they're both really quite lovely. All right, so now's the time where I just want to bring you up to date on a few things, and if you want to stay in here, you are more than welcome, and if you don't, that's quite all right too. That we don't need. So paper pumpkin. Stampin' Up! Is going through a price increase. They did that a couple of years ago, and now they are doing another one. So for Paper Pumpkin subscribers, and I know that I have a few, Paper Pumpkin is going to go up with the May Paper Pumpkin. So that would be the next one that you would be ordering. So this would be a good time if you're doing month to month, and if you're liking what you're getting, to go ahead and get a 3-month prepaid or a 6-month prepaid or even a 12-month prepaid subscription. And here's what I will tell you. You can cancel at any time. The other thing, one of my Paper Pumpkin subscribers has taken a break from some of them, and I don't know if it's just because she's busy and knows she wouldn't be able to do it when it arrived, or if it's because she, has seen a bit of a preview of it and just might not be her thing. So I will get an email saying, Susie Smith has, I forget what the term they use is, put her Paper Pumpkin on hold or delayed her Paper Pumpkin or something like that. So she skips a month basically. But if you have it prepaid, then you're going to get the current price for Paper Pumpkin. If you don't have it prepaid beginning May 1st, you're going to pay the increased price. So it will be $25 a month. 1 month prepaid is $24. 3-month prepaid is $71. 6-month prepaid is $130. And you save $5 from the month-to-month plan. And 12-month prepaid is $252, and you save $20. Again, sounds like a lot of money, but some people get these and use them themselves, and other people get them and use them as gifts. Give them to their grandchildren as a gift, or give them to a friend who enjoys crafting but maybe doesn't want to buy all the stuff. So just something to think about. The price will be going up, but if you have a prepaid code, your price will stay the same throughout the duration of your subscription. I hope that makes sense. That's a pre-order thing. That's not for you. Let me see. What else have I got here? I think I just grabbed everything. Nope. So, okay. So Stampin' Up! Price increases besides Paper Pumpkin. I know you can't see this. I can hardly see it. The storage units, the stamp and blend storage units, the topper lid, the topper storage, the ink and marker storage, and the open storage, those are the plastic things. To be honest with you, I didn't get the plastic ones because I got some different ones that were bigger. But the people who have the plastic ones, I know have had them for years, travel with them, take them to classes, and they seem to be quite sturdy. So while I was not so sure initially whether they would be sturdy, it seems like they are. Okay, oh, and the pads, the cutting pads for your Stamp and Cut and Emboss machine, both the full size and the mini, are going up in price too. I'm just mentioning that because we're here. I already went over with you, I believe, like things that were retiring. I'm just looking for that storage. Whenever I look for something in this catalog, I can't find it, and I should have marked it, and I didn't. All right, well, I'll stop looking, but if you've looked through the catalog, here we go. You know what I'm talking about. And they now even have one for the blending brushes, but that one does not seem to be mentioned. So they're going up. So whereas the ones that are $16 are going up to $18. That's the marker storage tray, $16, and the blends storage tray is going up $2. The topper lid, which is just a way of topping off your, because these are stackable, so it's a way of topping off the stack, is going from $4 to $5, so not terrible. The topper storage, which is instead of that top, you choose this top, which lets you keep things in the top, like ribbons or re-inkers or whatnot, is going from $6.50 to $7.50. The ink pad and marker storage, which are these, I think I already said, are going from $16 to $18. And the one they just call open storage is going from $12 to $14. So $1 to $2 increase, not terrible. Punches, which have always been pretty reasonable, are going from $22 to $23. The pick-a punches, and they're just using that term generically because we've had pick-a banner, we've had pick-a different things. So any of the ones that are kind of a pick-a punch type of thing is going from $27 to $28, and the tag topper punches, which we've had numerous of over the years, are going from $26 to $27. So again, that's just $1 for each one. The stamp and spritzers, that's the thing that you saw me using here, they come in a pack of either 2 or 3, and they're going up from $4 to $6, so still really quite a bargain. The small blending brushes going up from $12 to $14, you've seen me use those, and the regular blending brushes going up from $13 to $15. The Take Your Pick die brush tip, which I actually don't have, it's just a tip that looks like the old die brush that we used to have, and if you still have one of these, then you might not have any need to get that, but it's a smaller version of it that fits onto the end of your Take a Pick tool. So just for those of you who don't know, the Take Your Pick tool has the putty end, which can be refilled, but that end can also come out so that something else can go in there, like the brush tip can go in there. And then there is also the other side, which has the pointed one that you see me using like a piercing tool, but also has a spatula, which is great for fixing mistakes that I, occasionally make. And then it also came with, but I have it put away because I don't use it, a score tool, like the kind you have on our score board that you can buy. So you can get that. And now there are some others. There's a knife, and those are all listed under tools in the catalog. So those, some of those are going up. And the Simply Scoring tool itself, that's this thing. Now, yes, our cutter does score. This I purchased years ago, and I love it. And it scores a very straight line. It does a nice job, and you can do multiple scores on a piece of paper without having to move the paper. So with the score, with the paper cutter, you have to slide the paper over and keep looking at the measurements, whereas here you don't have to do that. And it comes with these little brown ones. I've lost all but this one, and there's a seller on Etsy that sells replacements, but yours will come with new ones, and it'll come with a score tool, which is missing, so it's probably on the floor here somewhere. The paper trimmer is going up from $26 to $28. The paper snips are going from $11 to $12, and I just can't say enough good about these scissors. They are just amazing. They come with a shield, which is good because they're kind of deadly. They're very sharp, both in the point and in the sides. they just work amazingly well for cutting small things, for fussy cutting, but even not fussy cutting. And I've got multiple pairs of them, and I love them. Let's see what else. The bone folders are going from $7 to $8. I mentioned the paper trimmer. The cutting blades multi-pack is $13, going to $14. So that's comes in a pack of 4 if you need new blades for your trimmer, which you will eventually. The Take Your Pick tool itself is going from $11 to $12. The putty refill is going from 4 to 5. So I ordered 2 of those today, and they come 2 in a pack, so I'll get 4. The heat tool is going from 31 to 32, and I thought I would address this. So if you watch my video here, you see that I'm using this pink heat tool, and if you watch my videos in Florida, I used a pink heat tool, and no, these are not Stampin' Up! Heat tools. I bought these long before I ever even heard of Stampin' Up!, when I started making journals and doing mixed media art. What I would say is, these are still working, so I'm not going to replace them. I'm just not. However, the Stampin' Up! Heat tool is better than these in that it has not just an on-off switch, but a high and low switch, which gives you the ability to do some embossing without worrying about burning things, to do some drying of paper without worrying about it being too hot, too fast. So it has a high and a low setting, and I really think that is a very good feature to have. And when this one bites the dust, whenever that is, I will definitely get the Stampin' Up! One. But I just wanted to explain why I don't have it, because I do try to have Stampin' Up! Products whenever I can. The Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, the full-size one, is going up from $128 to $130. The cutting plates from $13 to $14, and that's for 2 plates. The mini cutting plates from $7.50 to $9. The Simply Chamois is going from $8.50 to $9, so that's a 50-cent increase. That's not a big thing. The sponge daubers are going from $5.50 to $7.50, and you'll get a little bag, like this with 5 daubers in it. The shimmery embossing paste is going from $9 to $10. The blender pens are going from $13 to $14. So these are all pretty much dollar increases. The watercolor pencil set 1 is going from $16 to $18, and set 2 is going from $12.50 to $14. The blender pens, those are the ones that I said I couldn't find in Florida, but they were there. I found them when I was packing up to go home. They come in a set of 3, and because I do classes, I have 2 sets. They do eventually run out, but I have to tell you, this one here with the tape on it, I've had at least 6 years, and it has not run out of whatever emollient is in there. This one is a little bit newer, so you will get 3 of those in a box for $14. The matte embossing paste is also going up $1. Cardstock. So I placed an order today, and I did stock up on cardstock, because the solid cardstock, meaning any color solid cardstock, 8.5 by 11, is going from $10 to $11.50. It's a $1.50 increase, but for me as a demonstrator, I get white cardstock is going from $10.50 to $13. That's the 8.5 by 11, and the very vanilla cardstock is going from $10.50 to $13. So that's a $2.50 increase, and the thick basic white cardstock is going up $2.25 from $9 to $11.25. And if you get any of the assorted packs, a lot of people do that when we come out with new in colors. They get an assorted pack, so they have a few of each, and they can see if they like the colors. That's going from $13.50 to $15. The medium envelopes are going from $8.50 to $11. So that's a big jump in my opinion. I use a lot of envelopes because every class that someone comes to, they get a free envelope with their cards that they make. So I just ordered a bunch of those at the lower price. You might want to as well. You get 40 envelopes, so in that respect you get a lot, but it's an increase. The mini glue dots are going up $1.50, so I ordered a bunch of those. The black dimensionals are going up, but the other dimensionals are not. They're going up 25 cents, from $6 to $6.25, and depending on how carried away you get with your dimensionals, those will last a while. The foam adhesive strips are going up 25 cents to $8.25. The foam adhesive sheets are going up 25 cents to $8.25. The classic ink refills are going up from $5 to $5.50. The classic ink refill bundles, that's when you buy like all the new in colors, and instead of buying each ink pad separately, if you really want all the colors, you get all 5 of them for $45, but now that's going up to $49.50. So if you haven't received some of those bundles yet, you might want to. The Stampin' Blends combo packs Those are the ones that come like this. They have a light and a dark. We don't have these for every single color that we have because some are close enough, but we have them for most colors. We have them for all, I think all of the new in colors. Those are going up from $10 to $11, so not terrible. And the ones that I have lasted me a very long time, and I think I use them pretty often. The Stays On ink pads are going up 50 cents from $10 to 50 cents, or $10.50. The Stays On refills from $7 to $7.50. The Tuxedo Memento Black from $6.60 to $8, so that's a $1.40 jump. So if you don't have that, you might want to get that. The White Craft Stampin' Ink refill is going up from $4.50 to $7, and I feel like I should highlight that, and I'll tell you why. When you buy the White Craft ink pad, it comes uninked, but it does come with a bottle of the re-inker. Because of the thickness of it and how easily it dries out, they don't even bother to ink it to ship it to you. So you get a blank pad and you re-ink it yourself. When you ink it yourself, you're using probably half of the bottle right there. So then when you need to re-ink, you've only got half a bottle left. So it's a good one. If you use the White Craft ink, it's a good one to have a couple of refills on hand of that. And before a $2.50 increase, I would get at least one anyway. The Versamark ink refill is going from $6 to $7. So some of the things that are going up in price, I'm assuming are things that we possibly have a harder time getting. There might be some shipping issues with them. I know for some of our items, like the embossing paste, we're changing suppliers or manufacturers, however you want to say it. And that's why they've been unavailable for a while, but they certainly should be back soon. So I'm hoping they will be, because I like using embossing. I keep saying embossing paste, don't I? Maybe not. Embossing powder is what I'm talking about. Last Chance products, you can find this list on in my online store on the website. A lot of things are definitely retiring, more than I would have liked. And some things, and let's see if I can just hold this up so you can see, some things are discounted, not everything. So some things are 30% discounted, some things are 50% discounted, some things are, I think I saw some that were even 60, but if you look, yep, there's 60. So the Country Bouquet photopolymer stamp is discounted 60%. There's quite a few at 50, some at 10, some at 40, but here's what I'm going to tell you, and I don't think they've ever done this before. Even though you can order Last Chance products now, okay, you could have ordered them yesterday, whatever, they are not giving the discount price until April 9th. And I'm not happy about that. I just don't think that's nice. But they're being a business, and I keep telling myself that. So the bottom line is, if there's something on the Last Chance list that you really want a lot, don't wait until the 9th, but you're sacrificing the discount. If you could take it or leave it, it would be nice to have it, but you want the discount, and if you can't get the discount, then go ahead and wait until the 9th, but things are already selling out. So it's just kind of one of those it's up to you things. So there are Last Chance products from the annual catalog and Last Chance products from the spring catalog as well. So you have a lot to choose from there, for sure. But like I said, just kind of think about it. Now, some of the things are carrying over, and like I said earlier, you might not find them in the catalog, but they're carrying over to online exclusives. In terms of the kits as well, they have been adding like 2 kits every week or every other week for a while now. They're going to try to add online exclusives multiple times during the year. To begin with, they were saying every second month or something like that. Now it seems like they're doing it more often. So there are a lot more offerings. When we first started doing the online exclusives, it was like, well, it'll be there. When it's gone, it's gone. I've seen that happen very rarely, to be honest with you. I've seen them seeing the popularity of these items and reordering them again and again. So, and that's good news for the demonstrators too, because if I were to buy a Last Chance item and then do a demonstration with it, and you go, ooh, I love it, I have to have it, and then you go to the website and guess what, it's sold out, you're not going to be a happy camper. But they seem to be restocking those things pretty regularly and pretty well. So don't hesitate, whether you're a demonstrator or a customer, don't hesitate to go for those items, for those online exclusives. I think I might have said Last Chance when I wasn't talking about Last Chance too. I don't know, a lot going on, like I said. I know there was something else. I know I wanted to tell you about the paper pumpkin, and I did that. I hear through the grapevine that there's going to be a joining special in May. I did not hear that officially from on stage from anybody with any official title. It just sort of seems to be a rumor, but it's floating around a lot and among some people who usually know what they're talking about. So if you're interested in joining Stampin' Up! And you'd like to join my team, I would love to have you. I have a small team of lovely, friendly people. And I'm not just saying that because two of them are here tonight. They really are just a very open and welcoming group, and we'd love to have you. So on that note, here's the other thing I wanted to say. Amy might know I know Amy knows at least one of these people. So the company close to my heart has announced recently that they're closing their doors effective June. I don't know if it's the end of June or the beginning. They're going out of business. And I have to confess that there was a time when I was here in New York, I had a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. This was before I was a demonstrator, and I went to her classes. I went to several different demonstrators' classes, and I purchased Stampin' Up! Products exclusively. When I went to Florida, there was a woman who was a close to my heart. They call them makers, not demonstrators, who did a lot of scrapbooking crops at her home and at some other places. And I was lucky that they were happening when I was there, so I attended those crops, and she would very often sell her used products or retired products at those crops. And I bought some of her things as well, but I kept them in Florida and used them for my journals and other things. And I liked their products as well. Did I like them better than, equal to? I have to say it was kind of a toss-up for Stampin' Up! There were some things of Stampin' Up's I liked better, and some things of Close to My Heart that I like better. I love Stampin' Up's cardstock. I think it's the best quality that there is out there, and I say that, in all honesty. Close to My Heart had stamps that were different from the kind of stamps that Stampin' Up! Had. Some of them were like really cutesy, cartoony things, which I sometimes liked and sometimes didn't like. But they were big on scrapbooking. That was like their niche. And now that they're going out of business, Stampin' Up! Has negotiated with them, and it is my understanding that Stampin' Up! Will be carrying more scrapbooking products like they used to years ago. I think they backed out of selling scrapbooking products because Close to My Heart was doing a great job with it. Their things were popular, and also Project Life was doing a lot of that. Now Project Life has kind of faded away. They're not selling the types of and the numbers of products that they used to sell. So whether Stampin' Up! Is going to be actually acquiring some of Close to My Heart's actual products to sell, whether they're just going to get the rights to some of the designs, I don't know. That's below or above my pay grade. But the other thing that Stampin' Up! Is doing, which gets me back to being welcoming, is that they're saying to their makers, if you guys need a job, if you, especially if you're someone who does this to make your living, if you would like to become a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, we are opening our doors to you. They're letting them come in as a whole team. So if there's an individual person who wants to be a demonstrator, they could possibly sign up under me or under someone else that they know who's a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. If they have their own upline and their upline is also switching over from Close to My Heart, they will come with that upline and continue to have that upline and those team members. But they really are being welcomed with open arms, and they're being offered an amazing joining special, joining promotion, whatever you want to call it. So that makes it attractive to them to join our team. So we will be getting new demonstrators, at a rate that different than what we might normally get them. Again, depending on how many of them are interested. I've reached out to a couple of them that I know and said, if you don't already have an upline person and you'd like to join my team, we would absolutely welcome you, and we'll see what happens. But I'm also talking to my scrapbooking friends out there, because I believe that we will be probably with either through online exclusives or more with the 2025-2026 catalog. I'm not sure how it's going to work, but I believe completely that we will be serving or offering more scrapbooking products than we have in quite some time. So right now we've got the album, and we've got the pocket pages, and we've got the memory and more cards, which are great for pocket scrapbooking. And I'm just assuming that we're going to add a lot to that line of products. So I'm very happy to announce that to my scrapbooking people. All right, I think that was the other thing I wanted to say. So just so that you were aware, because people have been saying, I hear Stampin' Up's going out of business. And Stampin' Up is not going out of business. Sadly, it's close to my heart that's going out of business. And we're going to try to absorb some of their people and some of their products, designs. Again, don't quote me on that part of it because I wasn't invited to that meeting. So I don't know the exact details of it. But they're giving us information kind of in dribs and drabs. So we will get some more. All right, I will let you know as I know more, and I will see you 1 week from today with another technique or two. Thank you so much for joining me, and have a great night and a great weekend. Bye-bye.